It is time for the latest question in our series of 99 questions about the college football season. And this question has to do with one of the ultimate topics in college football, trap games. It only takes one Saturday or Thursday for a bunch of 19 to 22-year-olds to wake up and just not have a good day, for all of your thoughts and hopes and dreams to come crashing down. It's part of the reason why we love college football is it does feel like every game has stakes. So we've looked at the UNC, NC State, and Duke schedules, and we've identified the trap games, the ones that are most likely to be heartbreakers, the ones that are most like, because if you lose to a good team, there is an element of respect there, right? You showed up. Maybe you were locked in. Maybe you did play your best. They just played better, right? You threw a good pass. Defensive player made a better play. That's a hat tip situation. Some of these games that we have identified here are the ones that you're going to, if they turn into not great situations, you'll be kicking yourself. Dennis, which school we want to do first?
Let's start Carolina.
Carolina. To me, their trap games are a little different variety than the others. James Madison's a trap game just because they're better than you think. They're a team that if you take 2 seconds and dive into their resume, they're much better than their surface level will say. Right? Their surface level says they were in the FCS 4 years ago? How are they any good? What they're in the Sun Belt? Yeah, we beat up on the Sun Belt. They call themselves the Fun Belt. It's the not so fun belt when they come play us. Then you look at James Madison, you're like, oh, wait, weren't they a top 25 team last year? Don't they return some pretty good talent? I don't know how they didn't get pillaged by the transfer portal. They must have something really cooking in James Madison. The Dukes, that ugly purple. So, UNC, trap game. Sometimes it's that's an old school trap game, right? Just a team that's better than they think. They also have, I would say, at Virginia is a trap game because they play Florida State the next week, and Charlottesville is a weird place to play. I was talking with Dennis about this earlier today. Even when Virginia makes a big play, if they score an 80-yard touchdown,
gosh,
everybody stands up and they sway to Auld Lang Syne. Auld Lang Syne, whatever that song is, the New Year's song.
Auld Lang Syne, yeah.
Instead of, everyone stands up and they just sway back and forth with arms around each other. It's just a weird vibe. And then they have Boston College right before NC State, end of the year. If North Carolina does have a surprise season and they start, having some real stakes, they're going to be looking at that NC State game thinking, if we win that. And sometimes BC on the road the week before could get forgotten. NC State or Duke? Which way are we going next?
Let's go with Duke.
Duke, to me, has the most quintessential ACC trap game, right? By the way, for Duke, it's harder to find a trap game simply because I think they will be playing spoiler this year much more than they will be playing potential spoilee. They'll be the one maybe trying to trap a team or two. But they play at Georgia Tech right between playing UNC and Florida State. Now, anytime Duke and UNC get together, there's going to be a tension on that game, right? There's going to be a certain level of, you better win this one. And anytime anyone this year plays Florida State, there's going to be a certain level of, you better win this one. Give them your best shot. You're representing the entire ACC against a member of the ACC. And Florida State has been good. So there's that added element. So to drop a Georgia Tech right in the middle, that could be a game that you overlook, a game that you're not ready for, a game that you feel like you could take a rest. And Georgia Tech is easily good enough to smack you around. And then there's NC State. NC State has what I consider the definition of a trap game. This thing is so obviously a trap game that it might almost not be a trap game because NC State is going to be so aware of its possibilities as a trap game. Right? It's like when every single analyst in the world calls someone a draft sleeper, and I'm like, obviously not. Nobody's sleeping on him. Now every team has looked
talking about him.
Now everyone has looked into that player because of their sleeperness. Or it happens with dark horse Heisman candidates. Right? It's like, this guy's a dark horse Heisman candidate. I'm like, every single person has called him a dark horse Heisman candidate. He's no longer a dark horse. He's just in the horse race. Home. This is the quintessential trap game for NC State. home at noon. Those noon games are always potential to be a little groggy, right? Versus Louisiana Tech, Group of 5 school, from far away, so it's not even like a regional rivalry.
Yeah, it's not like you're playing App or ECU or Charlotte.
Yeah, and where you probably have somebody you played against in high school on the team or something.
Yeah.
Like it's not that. It's Louisiana Tech. The week before the home noon game versus Louisiana Tech, you play Tennessee. So you have a little bit of an emotional come down after playing Tennessee in Charlotte. It'll be a big game, nationally televised, kind of your introduction to the world. Immediately after you play at home at noon versus Louisiana Tech, you play Clemson. Another game that could help decide whether you make the ACC title game or not, whether your biggest and boldest dreams have a chance of coming true. And sandwiched right in between those big two emotional games is Louisiana Tech at home at noon. That is neon signs like the Vegas Strip blinking with an arrow that says trap game. You know, it normally says like buffet. It says trap game pointed right at it. There's also Thursday night at Georgia Tech on their roster, which is a short week after Duke because it's on Thursday. So they play Duke on Saturday, short week, Georgia Tech. And that's right before they play UNC in the finale on the road. So 2 crosstown rivals with at Georgia Tech on a short week in between. That's another potential trap game. But what's the first rule of trap games?
Don't get trapped?
Second rule of trap games. You have to identify them.
Oh, okay. It's like, don't talk about trap games?
Yeah, what is this? Fight Club?
Yeah.
You have to identify them, right? And then your coaches and your leaders have to absolutely pound it into your brains that you will not let it happen, right? The coach should be the most angry the first practice of that week. Set the tone. Right? Send somebody off practice. The metaphorical killing of a hostage, right? Let them know you're serious. Pick somebody that's not warming up adequately. Send them into the locker room. And then go talk to them and be like, I had to do it. Like you those trap games, once you identify them, once you know they're there, once they're part of kind of your awareness, then you can do the things to make sure they don't happen. So I've identified them for you. Now you just have to make sure you're locked in those weeks. You're welcome.